mother taught me to appreciate a job well done. If you're going to kill each other, do it outside. I just finished cleaning. My mother taught me religion. You better pray that will come out of the carpet. Ever heard that? How many of you are saying that to your children? My mother taught me about time travel. If you don't straighten up, I'm going to knock you right into next week. For my mother, it was always next Tuesday. I don't know what it was about Tuesday, but I was going to be knocked into next Tuesday. So I learned about time travel from my mother. How many learned logic from their mothers? Because I said so, that's why. My mother taught me foresight. Make sure you wear clean underwear in case you're in an accident. My mother taught me irony. Keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about. My mother taught me the circle of life. I brought you into this world and I can take you out. Exactly. My mother taught me genetics. You're just like your father. My mother taught me wisdom. When you get to be my age, you'll understand. And my favorite, my mother taught me about justice. One day you'll have kids, and I hope they turn out, everyone, just like you. Well, for most of us, we learned about etiquette from our mothers. Our mothers were the first people, the first in our lives to teach us this is what etiquette is about. Etiquette is simply knowing how to treat people and knowing how to act. How many of you know that in this day and age, sometimes it seems like people just do not know how to act? And we are on the receiving end of so many people's misunderstanding of what good manners are, of what good behavior is. And so etiquette is simply those timeless rules of behavior that prevent us from being considered thoughtless or inconsiderate or rude or unkind or uncaring. We don't want to be offensive to people. Etiquette is simply those rules, those kind of principles that help us understand this is how we get to interact in the world today. This is how we make for a civil society. And in so many cases, our society today is filled with incivility, isn't it? It's filled with people in our face. It seems as the years have gone on, that we are less and less involved in understanding what it means to treat people properly, what it means to do things in the right way, to behave properly. Let me tell you a little bit about the term etiquette, because etiquette is so much more than just holding up your pinky when you drink from a teacup. In fact, let me tell you, there is no place in any rule book anywhere that says you're supposed to put your pinky up when you drink from a teacup. I think that's Hollywood. It was probably from a Three Stooges episode of some kind. One of the things that Henry Alford found that is a real pet peeve for a lot of people, and it may apply here in some way, folks who don't RSVP. Folks who don't RSVP, and especially if they're not coming and they were expected to come. So if you are not going to show up, sometimes it's very important, particularly in meetings such as this, it's important that you RSVP. Why? Because we're buying food for a certain number of people. We want to make sure there's enough food. We always kind of plan for no-shows, and however an organization may put their thing together, it's appropriate and just plain old good manners for you to RSVP and not to show up later and say, oh yeah, I did RSVP, and we know you didn't. So come on now, remember that this is important to the meeting planners. And you want to make things easy and accessible for other folks. You don't want to be seen as that jerk that never RSVPs. You don't want to be known as that guy who never says thank you. You don't want to be known as that guy, as it so happened in the organization that I used to work for. You don't want to be known by a name that isn't your name. And here's what I mean. The organization I used to work for, we did an annual Thanksgiving dinner where the executives served up the food as the staff filed by and got their turkey and their green beans and whatever it was. And one worker during this period came by and picked up 5 pieces of pumpkin pie. As soon as he could see that somebody else had gone through and it didn't look like too many people, he went through and got another piece of pie. Then he went through and got another piece of pie. Then he came back and got another piece of pie. I do not know that gentleman's name to this day because HR called him the 5-piece of pie man. You don't want to be known as the 5-piece of pie man. How many of you have forgotten people's names especially a name like Eunice's that is a little difficult to pronounce, and you'll forever, Eunice, I'm sure you get this all the time. Mr. Yes, and Mr. B, it's so good to see you. And you're caught, saying to someone, what is his name again? I don't know how to pronounce it. Simply say, I am so sorry. I have forgotten how to pronounce your name. Could you say it again?
Yunus Baftechi.
Baftechi. I'm so sorry. It's difficult for me to remember. Just move on. Don't go, I'm so sorry. Oh, how embarrassing. I forgot your name. Thank you, Eunice. That's simple stuff. Figure out what somebody's name is. If you have to ask them again and again, tell me again what your name is. People like to be called by their name. Call them by their name. If you don't know how to pronounce it, I used to work with a woman whose last name was Jefferus, and the number of names that she was called that weren't Jefferus, it was Jefferus, it was Jephora, it was Jefferies, folks, if you don't know a person's name, just go ask them. Vicki, how do you pronounce your last name? Andrea, how do you say your last name? I want to make sure I get it right. Let me rehearse it with you again. People are flattered that you want to know their name. So you're going to want to shake a hand, find out what a person's name is, repeat their name when they introduce you. When you're handing someone your business card. Now, we don't live in Japan, so we don't do this, and we don't bow, and we don't, intricately inspect the card to make sure that we're being proper about the card. But you also don't want to go into a room and do this and hand out your card like it's a deck of cards, and I've seen that many times. Look, when someone hands you a business card, first of all, hand them the card so that it's readable. It's just simple. Hand them the card so it's readable. And you who are receiving the card, take a look at the card for the moment. Oh, what a nice logo. Oh, so you work in Wilmington. I've been there many times. Say something about it. What a great card. Sometimes you're not going to have the opportunity to present a card. So put it in front of them. Maybe you are going to be in a business meeting where everyone said, oh, let's exchange cards. Let's pass out cards. And so go around and put it in front of them. But again, don't pass it out like it's a deck of cards. I have made the mistake, because this is very common, it's just difficult to remember sometimes because it's such an easy habit to get into. I've gone like this and handed my card. Some of you went, oh, right? And I bet a few of you went, what? Which I have often done. I'm like, what? What are they upset about? Okay, so one time I pulled into my case and did this, and a woman smiled and said to me, I'll have a dry one, please. So I don't forget now. And even if I have to work on it, I will work on it instead of licking my fingers and handing a card to someone. So again, these are the timeless rules of behavior. We want to remember to be kind to people. We want to remember to be sweet. We want to, you don't have to be maudlin and syrupy and sweet and low and all of that, okay? We just want to treat people with respect. That is what good etiquette is about. Simple rules of conduct that prevent you from being considered offensive or unkind or ungrateful or uncaring. You just want to prevent that by putting out that open, friendly, gracious way of interacting with people. It's not hard. Once you know the rules, you never forget.